You can see him in the video. Eddy starts the race and Ernesto's got the spare bike on his shoulder. He was famous for what we call Drillium. That's the nickname for it.
Which does Rich Gangl prefer for ride? Do you like Reynolds
Yep.
or Columbus?
Hey guys, we're in Golden, Colorado today. We are going to celebrate probably the greatest cyclist of all time. And of course, his name is Eddy Merckx. With 11 Grand Tour victories, 5 Tour de France victories, 5 Giro d'Italia, I can say it, victories, 3 World Championships, and much, much more. Guys, the guy was amazing. We're going to celebrate his 80th birthday today, along with Rich Gangl. Now, if you don't know Rich Gangl, you really should. Now, Rich Gangl is an award-winning master frame builder, as well as a former Category 1 road racer from Golden, Colorado. He won 2 World Championships on the track and over 100 overall wins. And of course, his customers win state, national, and world championships on his frames. Guys, you may recognize this is Mark Nobilette. What do you think of this machine here?
Oh, well, I like it. It's nice. Very clean. Is this another one of Rich's that he made?
No, it's not actually. Sue built it.
Really? Oh, really?
Sweet. Sue wanted a bike that she got all the credit on, where he didn't help one bit.
Wow, nice.
So,
job, Sue.
you know, got coached, but he didn't touch this thing. So she did all the brazing, the painting, everything.
Huh.
Is that crazy? That's someone's first frame.
Yeah.
That's remarkable to see for someone's first frame.
Yeah.
So.
Well, she had a good teacher. So.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Slightly different cutout shapes.
This is one of my favorites, actually. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the paint scheme, but it's a favorite. Digging the shirt.
Yeah, thanks.
There was another one that's going to go right here.
Grant was in a show bike in the front window for 20 years. You had it. And I told, see, what's so neat is people.
Guys, it's still early in the morning. We're waiting for more people to show up. Rich is going to go over his collection in its entirety, going over all the specs and all the details that he worked on to make this collection what it is.
Are you John?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Ray Hill. We've never
Hi,
met before,
good to meet you.
but
John
I watched
Habush.
the videos. This is an old racing buddy of mine, Dan Brown.
Oh, hi,
And
good to
we've
meet you.
known Rich,
How long have you known Rich?
late 70s, maybe?
How about that?
Yeah.
You're all raced together?
Yeah. Rich was,
Rich was up there. You're not quite up there. Well, that's cool. Well, thanks for coming. That's awesome.
it's great to see.
Car is a happy car.
I am the antithesis
John's
of your
at it
world.
again.
I am the antithesis.
You know, you got 3 famous people in a row. You gotta do something there. Well, guys, we are celebrating Eddy Merckx's birthday here. It's a tribute to him. Beautiful cake.
My name's Rich Gangl. I've been 5 years, just newly retired now, so I decided to use my skills and come up with this idea here. And it's a tribute to Eddy Merckx, showing all the bikes that he used during his professional career. So right now it's been about 6 years of time devoted to this. And I always thought maybe when I had 5 of them, that's all, I'm going to stop. But now I keep finding more and more of them. But now truly there's only 2 more, and that'll be it. So my goal was, of course, I can't get any of Eddy's real bikes because they're in collections and they just cost too much. So my next best thing would be like during most manufacturers, they made the bikes for other customers too. So I'd try to find those. Good example would be like this Molteni Colnago Super. That's what most people notice Eddy on when they see pictures is the orange Molteni bike. But that's pretty much a stock Colnago Super. And so that's a real one. I was able to get that and I'd have to repaint it. And I didn't really care what size they were. I just wanted examples so people could see what the machines looked like. But top priority for me is at least they had to be my size so I could ride them when I want to. So that's what that is. But if I couldn't find them, with all my sources being in the frame building business and my contacts, I'd start worldwide hunts for the lugs, the bottom brackets, tube sets, everything that was period correct. And I was able to do it on, well, half the bikes are my reproductions from scratch, the other half are those factory builds. So I thought, I'd just start at the first one and just tell you about it and just go down the line if that's okay with everybody. The other reason is, why else did I put all this time and effort into it? Well, during my active Cat 1 racing career, during my time, that's as far as an American could go. We couldn't be a professional. It just didn't happen until 10 years later, and that was with Davis Finney, Ron Kiefel, Hamstein, Lexi Graywall. They were our first pros, Greg LeMond. So I missed it by 10 years. So, but during my time, I raced all the Red Zingers and the first Coors Classic, and that was what I consider the golden age of cycling in here in Colorado, Boulder. So I got to live through all that, and during that time, that's when it was the era of Merckx. So, of course, we looked up to that, but there was no internet. We couldn't find any information. We'd get through the grapevine. Well, Eddy would be doing LSD in long, slow distance. So anyway, we were getting secondhand information that he was riding 450 miles a week. So that's what we did too. And it was looking back after coaching and everything, that was the stupidest thing we could have done. Always in a state of being tired and everything. So anyway, my first team was Monte of Italy out of Aspen, Colorado. And that was the first team for like Alexi Graywall, his dad, Just Jeet, that ran Sherpa Mountaineering and Bike Shop in the summers. And the Doring brothers in Springfield, Illinois, and Steve Wood, who went to win a national road championship, Andy Finch, and a number of other notable riders. And that was the top team in Colorado in those days, and that was right before the Red Zinger. So the last premier race of the Colorado was called the Aspen Alpine Cup, and the last time we had that was in 1975. And I was a newly minted Cat 1, and I ended up out of 200 Cat 1s, I placed in, I think it was 10th in that. And back in those days, we weren't allowed to accept cash, or we'd lose our amateur standing. And that'd be a Jim Thorpe story. If you went to the Olympics and they found out you got money, they take your medals away. So anyway, we looked up to Eddy, and it was a big part of my life. So I thought, as time goes by, it's amazing. Young people, they go to me, well, who was this Eddy Merckx guy? And that just, makes me feel bad. So my job is to have this tribute to keep his, record going. And he's still with us. His 80th birthday, that's one of the reasons to do this, was to celebrate it, is June 17th. And he'll be 80 years old. But I think you can come up and we can start, and I'll just start going down and talking about what each bike is. So in 1965, he got his first pro contract, and it was Solo Superia. It was a Belgian team. And Solo was like a margarine manufacturer, so that's what the sponsor was. And the problem with that, he's just barely a senior rider, just a junior, and he's on the team. And at that time, the top rider was Rick Van Looy, and he was a multiple world champion, and he had his domestiques, those are his helpers. They were very loyal. all of a sudden, here's this young upstart, and he's beating them all, and they picked on him relentlessly. And that's when Eddy first started, being particular about things, and they were making fun of him. But the thing is on this type of bike, it was made by Remy Clays. It's a Superia bike. He won his first world title on that team, on this type of bike. And of course, I had to make this one from scratch. I can't find one of those. He still has his, though, in his collection. So he had such a hard time with the other riders on that team, he pretty much was done after the first season. So the next year, he was on, in 1966 to 67, Peugeot of France picked him up. So they rode, his first year, he rode the stock PX10, Peugeot PX10. And when I show this collection, it's amazing how many older guys come up, well, that was my first bike. It means a lot to them. I remember seeing these all over the place. But Eddy hated the way it rode. It wasn't a stock bike. They made him pick, a stock frame. No custom geometry was offered at all. But his teammate, who was the captain of the team, was Tommy Simpson. And he was the one that sadly died during the tour because of drugs. There's a monument to him up on the pass right now over there. But he told Eddy, I didn't like him either, so why don't you go to Masi? He'll make you the bike. So that's what he did for the last year in 67. And there's a picture of him on that bike, and it's really hard to tell them apart. Most of the true Peugeot PX10s, you can spot them right away because they have these black lugs up here. Okay? Well, the Masis, anytime you look at these old grainy pictures, you'll see there's no black lugs, and that's the Masi. So that one I don't have yet, but I'm on my way to figure it out because I'll have to do that one from scratch.
Rich, may I question?
Yeah.
On the Superia.
Yep.
Is that the bike that Eddy won in 1964 in Salon?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the amateur.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was his first world title.
Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
Did you get to the level of exact replica by knowing what kind of steel diameters, everything,
Yeah.
the gauges of the
As
seat?
far as I could research it, yeah.
So you had to research every tube on that bike?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And get the lugs and the BB that they use?
Yep, and the strange thing about this bike is this seat binder system. See how wide it is? It's unusual. And I've had guys come up to me at other shows, well, that's not it. And I go, I found this picture right there, and you couldn't have any better evidence at all. Because when I do show these bikes, it's funny, there's types of people that they look for any little thing they can catch you on. And now I kind of turned it into a sport a little. I like to banter with them. So.
Hey, did Eddy Merckx know you were doing this?
Well, he's supposed to be aware of it.
Oh, let's
Yeah.
see, how come he's not here?
Oh,
They didn't want
geez.
to travel.
If
Do you
we're,
think he knows you've done this?
yeah, he's aware. Yeah. Anyway, then he rode the Peugeot, and here's evidence. A lot of people say, no, you don't have the Masi. He didn't ever ride one of the stock ones. And I go, yes, he did. It's that first year. And again, here's evidence. That's him and his best friend, Patrick Surcouf. They raced together on the track a lot. And that's in Eddy's personal shop at home. And that's the bike I base this off of. Can't get more accurate than that. So he raced that in the end of 67, 68. He was picked up by Faema. I always called it Faema, but I've been corrected now. It's Faema. And what that is, that's an Italian coffee making machine company that still exists to this day. And I thought it'd be neat to have one of those little machines so I could show people because they're red and white. And this weird shape here, that's this cathedral that's in Italy. That's what that logo is. But I looked, and first of all, I can't find any dealers, and the ones that I do find, those coffee machines are like $7,000 and up. So I thought I'd find a broken one just to paint it up, and I can't. So if anybody out there ever knows where there's one at, let me know. So anyway, so he's on this team, And Masi made this one. It's a Masi special. And you can tell by the lugs and the George Fisher sandcast fork crown and bottom bracket. What's really unique about this bike here is that the brake bolts are permanently brazed to the crown and the bridge. There's no nuts or anything. And again, I've been picked on at shows about that, but there's Eddy with his exact one, and you can plainly see it. And it turns out that's a thing that Masi did back in the day, if you wanted that. But it's really hard because people that know the mechanics of bikes, there's no way to center your caliper when that's permanent. So I had to mark it and make sure I brazed it so you could bend a spring or something, but I didn't want to do that.
Rich, how many hours in just the frame set? How long did it take you to source everything, measure everything? Do you still do your full-scale drawings?
Yeah, I like full
Draw
scale.
it out,
Yeah.
finish it, paint it, just for the frame set. How many hours?
Because there was no customers on me or anything, and research and everything,
All of it, to build that frame set.
half a year. And most of it was just getting all the information. If a customer would have come to me and wanted this reproduction, because this is one I made from scratch, $7,000. And a lot of it's, I like the new old stock Campy. A lot of it's in the cost of getting those type of parts. Yeah. It varies. Yep. So anyway, so he's on that team. And then in the other thing, in 1969, Eddy won his first Tour de France on this type of a bike. It wasn't a Masi one though. It was Charles Turin. That was like the Faema mechanic. But there's this Van Est guy that was probably most likely the builder. But it looked just like this. So in 1969, he won his first tour over Frenchman Roger Peugeot, and he won by 18 minutes. So that's where Eddy's put his mark on the cycling world. They go, hey, who's this guy? Nobody wins even to this day by that much. So anyway, so then it looks the same as this. Well, that's the road version. But again, with Patrick Surcouf, they didn't do much during the winter, but Eddy kept racing, and we have these indoor track races called 6-day races, and it's composed of 2 riders. Usually one rider is the sprint, the speed guy, and the other guy is the endurance. And it's kind of like a relay. You're up there going, and every so many laps, you'll come up to your partner, and you get a sling for a momentum. And in Madison's, that's the type of the racing too, and it was very prominent in America in the 20s. Like, I think it was the Mammoth Gardens movie place. That was our track back for Madison racing in the day. So there were track versions, and this is the track version, and this one I just made, and it just got born like in the wee hours of this past morning. I just finished putting it together. So it's brand new. But here's, again, is that Patrick Surcouf teammate, and they're doing an exchange right there. It's almost like slinging the shot when you were a little kid, And there's Alberto Masi, that's the son, and Falero Masi, they're the ones that built these for him. And again, this is all the original lug work from them, that era. Yep. And then in 1970, he went to the Faemino team, and people ask, well, what's the difference between that and the Faema? Well, that was the coffee machine. Faemino they started getting in, that's the brand of coffee beans that you could buy. They were starting to get into that too. So he was on that team in 1970, and and it was made by Giuseppe Pella, who was a famous builder in Italy at the time. And he was a contract builder. He really never made bikes with his name on it. He liked to be behind the scenes. So what he would do, so people would know what the frames are, is he had this style of fork crown. It had the little grooves on it with the little dot in the middle, these lugs here. And then on the bottom there's these cutouts called they're referred to as butterfly cutouts. And then on the seat stay cap, it's flat and it comes to a point. So anybody that knows bikes, you know, could say, usually they had other team brands on there and other names. People would see that and they go, oh, that's a Pella. In this particular model, this is a real one. I mean, it's a Giuseppe Pella in my size. It came to me from Italy. I had to replace this tube. It was all buckled and cracked. So I was able to resurrect it. This one's by far worth the most in the whole collection because it's rare and the original. Okay, and then after, the other neat thing about this is the first year where Eddy started having his own name on his bikes and his portrait on the front. That was the first year that occurred. Because the bikes between this and the Faema, they look the same, except, you know, that now it's got his name on it. And then the jersey's really pretty, so I was able to get a reproduction of it. There. So and then this is when Eddy first started having stuff drilled out. He was famous for what we call Drillium. That's the nickname for it. To try to, you know, they just thought of, let's try to make the bikes lighter, so they drilled a lot of stuff and fluting, did all that. In my opinion, I think of all the bikes that he raced on, it's these red and white ones that are the most beautiful, especially this one right here. And to this day, when Eddy had his factory, because these are nostalgic, he still offered a modern day steel bike painted in the Molteni orange colors, and then the Faema ones. Okay, and then after 70, he went to Molteni for the first time. And that's when he hooked up with Ernesto Colnago in 1971. And this is an example of a Colnago Super, and this is an original one. I had to repair it and then paint it in the colors and everything. It's my size. But what's unique about it is not long ago, I was doing more research and I found out that first year in 1971 when he was on that team on Molteni with Colnago, Colnago decided to make this style of bike. Most of the race bikes had the relaxed geometry, so he shortened up chainstay length, lowered the bottom bracket, steeper angle, shorter top tubes, and Eddy was like one of the first people he was testing that on. In his size, but I couldn't get it done in time for the show today. So that's coming in. It's special because on those first Colnagos, like this one has the clover cut out just on that bottom head lug, but on the first versions it had one on each lug. It was the first year they put the clover cut out on the bottom, and more drilling was starting to occur. So I'll have that bike by fall. So.
Rich, do you ride these? Do you
Yeah.
ride?
Yep.
Okay.
Only at like Bear Creek Lake Park if it's not raining or something.
And you ride them with tubular wheels?
Yes, so it's the only thing that's all they had. And during all my racing, that's what we did. And still to this day, when I'm racing on the velodrome, we're on sew-ups still. Yeah. And I'm still old school. I don't like the modern fat tires. I just don't.
So I dare ask you, which ride experience is the best?
I think when I first showed up to your Eddy Rando, and I won the best Eddy that year, was on this. Back when we were going on those longer rides, if that's what you
That is your
mean.
most satisfying ride experience, that bike?
To that point, I haven't ridden any of these newer ones.
No.
I don't want to. It's like if you buy a brand new Porsche and you take it off the lot, it loses all that value. I don't want to do. So on a lot of these, I won't even glue the tires on because then I'm not tempted to go ride it. So,
Thank you.
yep. So anyway, so in this year, this was like 72 to the end of 73 on Molteni. This was the best example of the Drillium at its height, where everything is drilled. I mean, even I got holes drilled out in there. And the chainring is what it's really known for. That's just drilled out all over. Brake levers. heavy fluting. I had to do that on my milling machine there and there. So,
Did you do the outer chain ring?
yeah, yeah, yep.
How long would that take?
On my milling machine, it's not, I don't have a CNC, so I have a rotary table, and I can make the hole and then rotate, and I go all the way around. So it'd take me a whole day.
I just did it on a drill press.
Yeah, but you know, those guys, Eddie probably just had a guy take it home and center punch and drill, because when you look at the real ones, they're not perfectly centered. Looks like somebody done it in their garage. So anyway, so Eddie was having really good results on this team, and this is what most people to this day, whenever they think of Eddy Merckx, it's on the Maltini team on these orange bikes. So that's the classic. But then to me, the jewel of this whole collection is what came next, and that was in 1972. He decided to go for the hour world record on the track. And that's in Mexico City, high altitude. And this is my rendition of Eddie's hour bike, and it took 4 years of research before I made this. And this tubing is special. It's a lot of it's straight gauge, real thin. And the research, and there's lots of speculation that, well, there's how many of these bikes were there? And I've read accounts where there's like 6 of them, you know, and other builders are getting credit for having made them, but no, there's only 2. They were made by Ernesto Colnago. There's a nice picture of him with it. And there's only 2 of them. So if you go on YouTube, you can see the actual ride. They're grainy videos, but at least we have some, you know, documentation of it. So he gets there, and at the last minute, they chose between which 2 of the bikes they would take. So this is this one, and the one that was the spare resides in the Colnago Museum. And it's real ratty. I mean, it still has the decomposing tires on it. The paint's all chipped. But you can spot that one right away because it has a modern titanium stem on it. But on this version here that he actually did the hour on, and you can see all the specs on it here on these pictures, it was that light tubing, and they took the Campy arms and they milled out bigger slots than the normal, but it's on the back side of each arm too. Just, they didn't think of aerodynamics much in 1972. It was just strictly weight. Just get it down as light as possible. So what they did, they cut the chainring, the support pieces out of here, and then he had his work, you know, his name, Eddy, E-D-D-Y, engraved there, and then 5 diamonds with the world colors are in there. Because he liked art stuff. I mean, it make the bikes pretty. So then they decided to drill the Regina chain. That was because commercially you couldn't get that. The problem with chains are they're heat-treated steel, and normal bits won't even touch it when you're trying to drill the hole. This is one of those bits costs like $35. I had to go through 18 of them. So as you can tell, I'm kind of possessed, so I didn't care. I just wanted to do it. And then,
Can you make one?
nope. Well, what they did, this bike was responsible. You know, they did this so the manufacturers, Regina, started having drilled chains. So that bike brought on new bike technology. So the other thing they did is nailed out each spider here, and then this is all rounded off too. So this is what later became commercially available, and these are referred to as the Mexico crank, and that's because that's where the record was done. Other things on the pedals, they completely cut off metal off the pedals. The kick tab is gone. The front cage is all hollowed off, and then there's no dust caps. You can see the individual ball bearings in there. And that goes for the hubs front and rear. You can see the individual ball bearings because the dust caps weigh. You can see him in the video. Eddie starts the race, and Ernesto's got the spare bike on his shoulder. Ernesto in the Colnago Museum has the spare. And in the video, and I've read interviews years later when Ernesto talked about the hour. He said he was terrified for the first couple laps as it took him to get up to speed that it would fail because the bike at race time weighed 12.1 pounds. And that's unbelievable for set 1972 in steel. So,
Do you think it was dangerous for him to ride a bike that light with?
yeah, but he didn't care. He was going for it. Yep.
You know, the front wheels, the spokes don't cross.
That's called radial pattern. And that, you know, again, they weren't thinking aerodynamics, but they knew that, you know, when they're straight, you know, they'll probably go through the wind better. And those are first titanium spokes, too.
You show us the rims?
So on the rims, if you peel back the tires, they drilled out the metal there all the way around, and that saved 80 grams per wheel. And on rotating weight, that's going to make the biggest difference, is when you can get rid of weight. And the other thing, they had special silk Clement tires that weighed 90 and 100 grams, and of course I can't get my hands on something like that. So my goal making this bike was, well, how close can I get to that race weight that he had? So he was 13.1, but I had to use these heavier tires that came from 1975, and that's where my bike version is like a little over 12 and a quarter pounds. Plus I made, you know, Eddie's frame was bigger, so that too. So I'm not really sure where they got the, other than the tires, why it's not any lighter. But the titanium seat post, and you can't see the submerged part, that's all like Swiss cheese drilled out under there. And then this was the world's first titanium stem, so they went and contracted Cecil Behringer and Pino Moroni to fabricate this. And in all the pictures when Eddie's training, and like this picture here, it just has a normal Cinelli stem, and that's because they didn't want to put use on that super light stem except for the actual ride itself. So other things is, it's a 28-hole front radial and a 3-cross 32 in the back, and if you look, the little crosses, those are tied and soldered. That made the wheel more rigid, because just imagine the watts and the stress this frame had from a standing start, because he was so strong. And the gear was a 5214 on there.
Oh, I just noticed the bars too.
Yeah, and the bars, they're drilled out underneath the tape here. You can see the little dimples. Yeah. And the other thing about this bike is, on the video, you'll see him on the infield and he's getting ready and he's being hounded by reporters. He'd want to be quiet before something, but you know, that was his life. But he's bending over and he's putting on his racing uniform, and I noticed just about a year ago it had a rear zip. It was a one-piece skin suit, and I never knew that they had stuff like that back then. Mirror here it has the typical clover cut out on the bottom, but it's surrounded by 4 holes. So I put that little mirror, and you can see it pretty neat. It's kind of nice. So the other thing about this bike is a controversial thing. And at the last minute, Windsor, that's a bike manufacturer that was in Mexico in the days, and that's their logo right there. They came up to Eddie at the last minute and offered him a ton of money if can we put our decals on your bike? So he did. So when you see him in the actual race pictures, you'll see this one's mounted right there. And the little one.
Did Colnago know that was going on?
Well, he's standing there seeing this, you know. And then they popped this one right over Eddie's face right here. So being a frame builder myself, you know, most of my clientele have been world champions, national champions. I'd be kind of upset. So anyway, I won't talk anymore about what happened with that. But this poster right here.
You turn off the camera, you can tell me.
Yeah. Well, needless to say, they parted ways at that either, but they came out with this poster. But at the trade shows each year, Ernesto would be in his booth, and then Eddie would be in his, and I thought, well, I'll have him sign it, so I got both of them. Year in 72, he still was on the Molteni team, but Colnago no longer was the builder. So that's when he went to the Italian Ugo De Rosa. And De Rosa made great bikes, and this is an example of the De Rosa version of the Molteni bike. Same decals as the Colnago version, that is the one over there. They almost look the same, but this is De Rosa's. And it had the famous flat fork crown, these big seat stay caps like that with the points. And it had variants. There's a heart with an oval cut out on the bottom of this one. But the main thing about these is the chain stays are diamond shaped. De Rosa's always had that. But it still had the same decals and everything. So he started, racing on those bikes. And then after he was done with them in 1976, he got hooked up with the Fiat, the builders of the cars here. And he brought he was very loyal to his helpers or domestiques. So he'd bring a lot of them with him to the next team. And Patrick Surcouf, again, his lifelong racing friend and everything, he hooked up on that team. So this is the version here, another De Rosa, but now that it's in the silver and it has the blue panel with the yellow Eddy Merckx. The De Rosa sometimes had the heart cut out, and this is an example of that. Diamond chain stays.
So are
And-
we now to Eddie's frame size? Have we gone from your?
Yeah,
frame
so what
size to
happened,
Eddie's?
I tried to keep them, my size so I could ride them. But then I thought, well, these bikes, this is an original one. And I thought, and it's in his size. He rode 59 and a half, centered the top in 60s. So this one, I thought it'd be kind of nice in my collection to have some of the ones that are to his size so people can see the scale. He was a pretty big guy. So he raced on this bike, and they're beautiful, that silver. It was really hard for me to find that kind of silver paint. It's like the old Ginellis of the 60s. It's silver, but there's no metallic in it. So I found out what that it was to buy it. And then again, as the years went by, you're starting to see there's no more of the Drillium going on. He just went back to the standard, like super record stuff. These derailleurs here, first generation super record. They're really pretty. They basically have the same bodies of a Nouveau record, but these top and bottom were black anodized, and it has the 2 titanium bolts. And again, I talked in another video about, I was asked, why isn't there any more Drillium? And I think, getting back to your question, things broke. And my example is like on the gear shift levers on that bike over there, we used to drill this out. And once I was in a race up in the mountains here, and it snapped off. And you're stuck in your gear, and I was in my 14, and it was time to go up level and pass. So I go, it's not worth it. So I'm sure he had those experiences. So it started to disappear. No more of that drilling out.
Is this a De Rosa?
Yeah.
And is it built with Reynolds?
Yeah, or kind of Masi and De Rosa and Eddy, they liked Reynolds 531, just the way it rode. And I think there was some issues about supply with dealing with Columbus. But yeah, from this point forward, and even some of the earlier bikes like the Faema track bike there, that was 531. But it shows up, Columbus was the mainstay tubing of Colnago.
Which does Rich Gangl prefer for ride? Do you like Reynolds
Yep.
or Columbus?
Well, for just long distance riding, I liked 531. But I'm a Columbus guy. Most of my clientele during the 80s and 90s, during the reign of steel bikes, if it was a bigger rider, it was Columbus SL. It was the lighter version. But I'd put the heavier down tube in SP and chainstays because of, a lot of our racing are criteriums, speed. When you're very experienced, I can feel differences between the two. Yep. So anyway, that was a 1-year deal on a Fiat. And this is a neat picture. I used to always go visit him in his booth, so that was the last time I saw him at Interbike. he signed, I have like over 30 autographs from him over the years. I just take stuff and he always signs it. So then after Fiat, we come to CNA team. Excuse me, first of all, again, there were the track versions. So here's the Fiat track bike. And again, with Patrick Surcouf during exchanges during 6-day races. And I had to make this one from scratch. And to me, the track is, I love the track, so, and the bikes are so simple. No derailleurs, no brakes. It's a bike in its pure form. So, I had to flute this because he did that. Yep, so after the Fiat year of 1977, the last team he was on is CNA, and that's this one. And I've read things that a lot of the CNA bikes were previous, they were these, they just painted them different. So the way that it's the same silver color, but how you can spot them is on the Fiats, they have the blue panel with the yellow Eddy Merckx, and on this last year, it's the yellow panel with black Eddy Merckx. And that's how I tell them apart. So anyway, on this team here, they were a clothing outlet in Europe. They still exist to this day. He got on that, and he was starting to show age now and wear and tear. He wasn't fast like he used to be anymore. So, he was racing, and then his last race was like in the middle of March of 1978. He finished his last race and hung it up, and that was it. So he still had his contract for the year, so I have pictures of him where he's in the follow car and he's handing up bottles and stuff to his teammates. And then at the end of that season is when he announced retirement.
So Rich, you had overlapping racing years together.
Mm-hmm.
You were racing and Eddy Merckx was racing.
At the same time, that's why, that was who we looked up to. So that's the other reason this is very special to me. Even said, you love bikes, you always have. Why don't you build a factory and make bikes? And if you do that, I'll teach you how to build frames, and I'll help you set up your shop. That's what happened. So I have pictures here on the table of he went over to Italy to the De Rosa factory, and I have pictures of him brazing and lining stuff with Ugo, and he learned how to do it. And then Ugo went over there to Belgium and helped him set up the factory with the Marchetti and Lang frame building equipment. That was for production work. And that's how the factory started. And then his mic here still? Yeah. So this book, can you come talk about this? Yeah, so this is a transitional bike. It's really rare, but neat stories.
Yeah, so it's not 100% clear the provenance of this, but people who are expert in the De Rosa Eddy Merckx connection say that there was a group of people who went over from the Eddy Merckx factory to De Rosa, and they had kind of a training camp where they taught the Merckx people how to build. So based on the features of this frame, it appears that this is an example of what came out of that kind of training session. It's labeled Eddy Merckx, but it has the De Rosa heart cutouts in the bottom bracket shell. It's clearly the ones that De Rosa was using. I actually once showed this to a frame builder, Brian Bayless, and I said, what do you think of this? He goes, it's a De Rosa. It's actually a nice De Rosa, but then it's labeled Eddy Merckx. The seat caps are a bit weird because those Merckx was using later, so the chance the bike something maybe got rebuilt on it, or research has shown though that these caps may have been available from really early on. The other thing that this is conjecture, rumor, fantasy, wish, is that this bike supposedly belonged to Patrick Surcouf, Eddy Merckx's 6-day riding partner. Whether that's true, I don't know.
I think it is.
I like to have the fantasy that Merckx was starting on this adventure of building bikes, and this one was built at the training camp, and then Merckx takes it over to his friend. Here's what we're doing. Have one of the first ones. It's a nice story. I wouldn't value it based on that.
So anyway, that's pretty much the collection, my Merckx collection right now. But like I said, by this September, the final 2 bikes will be in here. And that'll be that Masi Peugeot and then the 1971 Colnago Special. So, well, these bikes here, they don't have anything to do with Eddy's collection, but they're significant in their own way. This came into my possession about 5 years ago, and it's a Danish-built Peter Schroeder frame from the late 20s, and what's significant about it's who owned it, and it was a Norwegian speed skater named Bernt Evensen, and he was the first Norwegian to win gold medals in the speed skating in the Olympics. But in the summer months, he would do cycling, cross training and everything. And he was a really avid racer for Norway in those days. But I got this bike from the second owner. There's the actual picture of him standing with that bike on the infield on a track in 1929. So.
What's the wood on those rims?
Well, the rims back then, a lot of people raced on wood, and I think they're hickory.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they're front and rear, they're tied and soldered. But it's really unusual for bikes of this era. They were usually just black. But you can see, I found out what the colors were. My renditions is more bright, so I just thought it was patterned after the Norwegian flag. So I just picked colors that were closer to that. It was probably more subdued, the colors. They'd had no metallic paints in them days. But this bike here, it's special because it's very unusual to have this much going on from that era. And you can clearly see that in the pictures.
What brand stem is that?
Well, the thing about that, if you look in the picture here, the stem has, it's very unusual. I've never seen that before. And the bike did not come to me that way. So I fabricated it myself.
Hey, Rich, what's up with the missing teeth on the front?
Oh, yeah, people ask, well, there's the teeth on the chainring and the cog in the back looks funny. It's like there's teeth missing. So we called that inch pitch or skip tooth. And that's just the style back then. The chain has double links. It's very unique. I mean, it's a heavy bike. I mean, it's got chrome plating everywhere. I had to have the chainring redone, and then when I made the stem, I had to polish that and get it all chromed. Had to redo the forks in the head lugs.
Beautiful bike.
And the seats, an actual Brooks, this is the original one. You can see it in the pictures, and amazing that it's in this condition. When I got it, it was totally a tan color, like, it was all torn up, but he had never crashed. There was no crash damage on the outside edges. So old Kiwi shoe polish and rubbing it down really good and brought it back. And then this bike here is special. One of my really good friends, she wanted to learn how to build a frame. There's other frame builders that give frame building classes. But this was a one-on-one, and she did all the work, and she has pictures of all the steps, wheel building, and everything. And that's Sue's bike. And it's a year old now, and she made it as if it were to be made in 1980, so it's got all the super record on it and the period correct parts. But we had this little bike show just this past Sunday called the Eddy Rando, and darned if it didn't win best of show. So.
I heard she had a good teacher.
Yep. So anyway, that's my presentation. And thanks so much for taking your time to come and indulge in it. Thanks a lot. So go ahead. There's refreshments and a little bit of food, and go ahead and take it.
I'm just going to wing it.
Okay.
So, hey, Rich, what a great time. I really
thank
appreciate
you.
you spending time with me and here, and this show is amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, guys, he did this on his own dime. He really did an excellent job not only building these bikes, all the research. I mean, how many hours do you have in this?
I had lost count a long time ago.
Countless
Yep.
hours, guys. This is passion. This is to celebrate Eddie's 80th birthday, and not only celebrate that. Now he wouldn't say this. I think it's to celebrate his work. Just excellent work. So I look forward to what? 2 more bikes?
Yeah, 2 more. I call it the Phantom Masi built Peugeot, and then the 1971 Colnago Super.
Wow. Well, a little tiny hand in the Colnago
Yep.
Super. So guys, I'll show you a little clip here of me pulling out this bicycle with Seth at Going Velo. And now my understanding is that you watched that and you said, hey, that's the missing frame.
Yeah, it has certain attributes that I could spot right away, like the fork crown,
Right.
and there's clovers on all 3 lugs instead of just the down tube lug.
Interesting. So now after you told me that, I regret not buying it. So,
Yep.
but now it's yours. So.
Yeah, and it's Eddie's true size too.
It is,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
So I missed out on that one.
Yep.
Hey, but thanks so much. I appreciate the
Okay,
invite.
anytime.
Great stuff.
Yep.
Hey guys, while I finished editing this video, I learned that I'm going back to Colorado. Yep, I'm going to go to Denver for the Velo Swap that takes place November 1st. Really excited to do that. And while I'm there, I'm going to check out that Colnago we built and even possibly that Peugeot, the Masi built Peugeot. So I get to see the rest of the collection and we'll highlight it in a video. Not only that, of course, I'm going to see Seth at Golden Velo. He's got a bicycle that I'm interested in, and he also has some parts for a Mercian that I'm building. Also, hey, you're in town, you got to go see Mike Cohn. So I'm going to see Mike Cohn as well. So, hey guys, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that little ring-a-ding bell so you know when the videos are coming up. And we'll just catch you next video. Thanks for watching.